This week on ATV News, Hurricane Matthew kills hundreds of people. The Trump campaign is in damage control as they recover from a leaked audio from 2005 released Friday. And ATV brings you the latest news on Kim Kardashian's $10 million robbery. I'm Tony Peak.
And I'm Wes Young. ATV News starts now.
As his last few weeks as President of the United States continued to fly by, President Obama has announced that his decisions pertaining to the U.S. economy have led to the creation of 15 million jobs in the United States job market. In an essay published in The Economist, Obama stated that he has created a more stable, growing economy with 15 million more private sector jobs since early 2010. So how did the president get to this very generous statistic? Investigations found out that he began his calculations from February 2010, which was the lowest employment rate in the United States following the financial crisis. According to the Department of Labor, at the time there were 130 million people working. Today there are 145 million. It seems as though Obama is trying to take credit where we are still unsure if credit is due.
The Trump campaign says Mr. Trump will be in debate prep today, rather than at the scheduled events the campaign had planned. This comes after Friday night's leaked audio from 2005 of Mr. Trump making lewd and inappropriate comments about women. The fallout from this audio has already been highly damaging, as many leaders within the Republican Party are condemning Mr. Trump's comments and withdrawing their support of his candidacy. The campaign released a video apology from Mr. Trump where he says he never claimed to be a perfect person or pretended to be someone he isn't. Mr. Trump says he regrets these comments and hopes to return to what he says are the real issues for the remainder of the campaign. Let's go now to Savannah McCann for the latest in entertainment news.
Thanks, Wes. I'm Savannah McCann with Entertainment News. Last Sunday, Kanye West ended his performance at the Meadows Music and Arts Festival in New York early. He told his fans that he had to deal with a family emergency. It turns out that wife, Kim Kardashian, was robbed at gunpoint in her hotel room in Paris. Kim pled for her life as the robbers tied her up and shoved her in the bathtub. The thieves left with millions of dollars worth of jewelry. Kim has remained silent on social media since the incident. Sources close to the family say that Kim is okay, but badly shaken. In 2014, Bruno Mars released Uptown Funk, and ever since, it's been stuck in our heads. Well, he's done it again. Bruno Mars released his newest single titled 24 Karat Magic, and trust me when I say it is just as catchy. In other music news, two singers have been booted from Dancing with the Stars. The show had a double elimination week, leaving Kenny Babyface Edmonds and Vanilla Ice kissing their dreams of winning the Mirrorball Trophy goodbye. Vanilla Ice returned to Florida to wait out Hurricane Matthew. On to some good news. Brie Bella, WWE diva and star of new reality show Total Bellas, is expecting her first child with fellow WWE star and husband Daniel Bryan. The couple is very excited to be parents for the first time. If Brie and Daniel need any parenting advice, they should just ask Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, who just had their second child. Blake confirmed that the baby is healthy, but the families decided to not reveal the name or gender of the baby. Speaking of babies, Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher are having a baby boy. Ashton let the news slip while on the Today Show. He said the couple's first child, Wyatt, is excited to become a big sister. Look out for some Instagram pics of the star-studded playdates. And that's it for Entertainment News. I'm Savannah McCann. Back to Tony and Wes in the studio.
Thanks, Savannah.
Wasn't it just so crazy how Kanye, in the middle of his show, I mean, he was really there for his family, stopped in the middle of a performance and just ran by Kim's side. I'm just so happy that she's okay. I mean, she's a mother of two children.
Yeah, and seeing the response on social media has been really powerful as well. At first, it wasn't good for her, but then people have really come out in support of her in solidarity.
For sure. With all of the events that have happened in the last several months, Americans have a reason to fear that their safety has been affected. If you live in California, the state is taking serious precautions to make sure that whoever is protecting its citizens are actually qualified to do so. A 2014 CNN investigation prompted California Governor Jerry Brown to sign off on major reforms to a law. The SB 1196 bill ensures that armed security guards are apt at doing their jobs in the most professional manner. This bill sets higher standards for prospective security guards. Mental health exams are required before allowing a guard to hold a gun. If a firearm has to be used for any reason, the security guard needs to report the incident to his or her employer. California is certain that these measures will benefit their citizens and ensure the safety of both them and their armed security guards.
The website WikiLeaks has released a batch of emails claiming to be from the Clinton campaign's manager, John Podesta. The campaign would not confirm if these emails were real, which WikiLeaks claimed contained damaging information regarding the Clinton Foundation, Clinton's paid speeches to Wall Street executives, and campaign tactics. The State Department also began to release more of Clinton's emails as part of the ongoing FBI investigation. 75 emails were released by the State Department on Friday, with more expected in the coming weeks. Let's go to Kate Ivey with sports.
Thanks, Wes. I'm Kate Ivey, and here's what's happening in sports. This week in the NFL, the New York Giants played the Minnesota Vikings and lost 10-2. Odell Beckham Jr. forced 2 turnovers that led to 10 points for the Giants. After these turnovers, Beckham took out his temper on the sidelines rather than on the players as he did in past games. With the passing of the legendary golfer Arnold Palmer, players honored his memory by attending a memorial service that was held on October 4th in his hometown, Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Guest speakers shared their fondest memories of Palmer and described how he impacted their lives as well as the game of golf. On a lighter note, the Chicago Cubs beat the Cincinnati Reds 7-4 on October 2nd. This game marked the Cubs' 103rd win of the season. Matt Sisker hit a double in the 9th inning and earned 2 RBIs on the play. Miguel Montero followed with a home run to finish the game. The Cubs won the series 2-1. American University's men's soccer beat Boston University 2-0 on October 1st. American took 9 shots during the first 45 minutes of the game, but the 14th shot made by Panos Naked was the first point scored by American. Naked scored the last shot of the game, leading to American's 5th win of the season. For sports, I'm Kate Ivey. Back to Tony and Wes in the studio.
Thanks, Kate. California may be amping up their security, and St. Louis may have to do the same. We are sad to report that an 18-year-old man has been charged with first-degree murder for the death of St. Louis County police officer Blake Snyder on Thursday. Snyder was responding to a disturbance call when Trenton Forster shot Snyder as he approached him to tend to the situation. Investigators say that Forster was aggressively trying to gain entry to a house that a young girl lived in. It is still not known if Forster and the girl had a prior relationship. Another officer that proceeded to shoot Forster several times was also on the scene. Forster is in critical condition but is expected to survive. His bail is set for $1 million.
Let's go to Liz Holmes with finance.
Thanks, Wes. I'm Liz Holmes with the Weekly Finance Report. On Friday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics released this month's employment situation. It stated, non-farm payroll employment increased by 156,000 in September, and the unemployment rate was little changed at 5%. Job gains occurred in the professional and business services and in healthcare. This month continues the trend of positive monthly employment gains since the end of the Great Recession at 69 consecutive months, stretching back to January 2010. These key numbers affect everything from the stock market to economic development planning and will be released November 4th, just before the November 8th election. As Category 4 Hurricane Matthew grinds up the Atlantic coast, businesses in at least 3 states face economic damage of varying kinds. Based on data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics for the area covering Key West, Florida, and the eastern Florida counties up through Georgia and South Carolina, there are at least 78,000 businesses that employ over 763,000 employees, whose jobs may be at risk for elimination if the hurricane ruins the business, reduced hours, or a short-term layoff if the business is damaged. Using data from 2012, these employees accounted for about $9.63 billion quarterly wages. Other businesses outside the evacuation zones for these 3 states that supply to or buy from the seaside businesses in the potential damage zones may also be affected. It will take some time to fully assess the actual economic impact following the recovery period. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 67 points this week and closed at 18,240.5 points this week. The S&P 500 fell 14.5 points and closed at 2,053 points. The NASDAQ fell 19 points this week and closed at 5,092 points. That's it for finance. Back to Tony and Wes in the studio.
Thanks, Liz. Tony, it's interesting to hear about the economic side of this hurricane disaster. We don't often hear about that type of story.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised to hear how much information came out about the business end because, I think all of our immediate focus goes onto the safety and just, clearing up of all of the affected areas, but really hearing about the business end made me just have a better perspective on the situation.
And it's another long-term effect of this hurricane that we often don't think about.
Absolutely.
We now go to Justin Gick with politics.
Thanks, Wes. Welcome to ATV Politics. I'm Justin Gick. The vice presidential debate took place on Tuesday at Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia. Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine and Republican vice presidential candidate Mike Pence went head-to-head on many issues that are important to Americans. It was a fiery debate. Both candidates talked over each other and made side comments when their opponent said something incorrect. This debate was the first and only vice presidential debate of the election season. Onto the campaign trail, the Clinton campaign announced that former Vice President and environmentalist Al Gore will be hitting the trail to help Clinton gain more support from millennials. Clinton has been struggling to convince younger voters to vote for her. Donald Trump found himself in cold water this week after suggesting that American soldiers and veterans who commit suicide do so because they can't handle post-traumatic stress. Veterans and acting service members were irritated by this statement and fired back at Trump. Clinton is currently leading Trump in North Carolina and Pennsylvania, while Trump is leading Clinton in Ohio. If you enjoyed the last presidential debate, then get excited for the second debate between both presidential candidates tonight at 9. There will be one final presidential debate on October 19th at 9. The election is only 29 days away. This week on Capitol Hill, a new poll was released stating that a majority of voters are unhappy with Congress's work. Congress is nearly a year into its new leadership and is stuck with an approval rating of 1.3%. House Democrats are amplifying an anti-Trump strategy in the weeks leading up to the election. Two officials from the Democratic National Committee headquarters believe Trump soils the grand old party and will sink vulnerable down-ballot House Republicans. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi has given Trump a nickname, the gift that keeps on giving. New Jersey Congressman Donald Norcross announced on Monday that he will be co-sponsoring House Resolution 6108, known as the Never Again Act. This would require the Department of Veterans Affairs to provide inpatient psychiatric help to veterans who need immediate help. This resolution was introduced to the House Committee on Veterans Affairs in September in light of many PTSD cases among veterans. In D.C., the National Park Service kicked off the 2-year restoration project of the Georgetown C&O Canal on Tuesday. The Georgetown Canal boat was towed out one last time. Mayor Bowser was on hand to speak at the groundbreaking, telling the crowd that the canal is a national treasure that needs some investment. The canal is slated to be completed in 2018. On campus, AU College Democrats hosted a vice presidential debate watch party. Before the debate began, D.C. Shadow Senator Paul Strauss was invited to speak to members. Strauss talked about the importance of voting and his ongoing fight for D.C. statehood. On Friday, the Obama administration said it is confident that Russia was behind the hacking of emails about upcoming U.S. elections in an attempt to interfere with the ongoing process. On a lighter note, President Obama's approval rating hit the highest point of his second term this week. The poll was conducted by CNN from September 8th to October 2nd. 55% of Americans approve of the president's job performance. That's This Week in Politics. For ATV News, I'm Justin Gick. Back to Tony and Wes at the news desk.
Thanks, Justin. You know, Tony, I think it's going to be interesting. Sunday night's debate, different format, town hall. I think it'll be interesting to see how the candidates act in that type of arena.
I agree. I think it's very important to have a more personal take in this political process and to really hear from the citizens. I think that it will just benefit the candidates, and I think that the citizens and just us people will just feel that much more involved.
Definitely, and a lot of people are calling for more social issues to be talked about, which this lends itself naturally to with this format.
Absolutely.
The Obama administration is accusing the Russian government of the recent hacks of the Democratic National Committee and other organizations. The administration is claiming the hacks were in an attempt to interfere with the U.S. election process. The Department of Homeland Security claims that only top officials within the Russian government could have authorized this hack. The hacked emails were posted on the site WikiLeaks, in addition to DCLeaks.com and Guccifer 2.0, which is said to be associated with Russian intelligence.
Let's go to Sumita Bhattarai with World News.
Thanks, Tony. I'm Sumita Bhattarai. For World News, we go to a northeastern town in Kenya named Mandera, where 6 lives were taken by Al-Shabaab, a jihadist terrorist group based in East Africa that has pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda. The victims were killed because they were Christians. These killings of non-Muslims by Al-Shabaab have been going on for a few years now. In each scenario, the militant group has separated the Muslims before killing the non-Muslims. In the past 3 years, hundreds of people have been killed by Al-Shabaab. Moving on, legislation was recently passed by the Pakistani parliament on honor killings done under the statement that the victim damaged family honor. The legislation suggested mandatory life imprisonment for murderers who were convicted. This proposal is a great step forward for Pakistan, for previously, murderers could be pardoned of their crimes by getting forgiveness from the victim's family. This legislation was passed unanimously. As a follow-up on last week's story, the vote on the referendum for the peace deal in Colombia between the Colombian government and FARC was put down by citizens by a very narrow margin. 50.2% of voters voted against the peace deal and 49.8% of voters voted for it. This vote came as a big surprise because major polls had relayed that the country was in a state of approval for the peace deal. The status of the 52-year war is now with uncertainty. The Colombian president Juan Manuel Santos' efforts in trying to end the war did, however, bring him the Nobel Peace Prize Award for 2016. That's all for World News. I'm Samita Bhattarai. Back to Tony and Wes in the studio.
Thanks, Amita. Now, Wes, it's very interesting now that these margins came out, with everybody had been thinking that it was going to be passed, this referendum, the peace deal in Colombia, that 51% of people were against it.
Yeah, leaves a lot of uncertainty in the region.
Absolutely.
Hope for the best.
The CEO of Backpage.com, Carl Ferrer, has been charged with pimping, conspiracy to commit pimping, and pimping a minor. Backpage.com is a website in which users are allowed to post ads for escorts, but its main use was for people to put out personal ads. It has since taken a different turn. Ferrer was arrested in Houston after he arrived on a flight from Amsterdam. Backpage was once owned by Village Voice Media, but is now owned by a Dutch company. The investigation is still ongoing. Let's go to Jill Cameron with the latest weather report.
Thanks, Tony. I'm Jill Cameron with your weekly weather forecast. Hurricane Matthew made landfall in Florida on Friday morning. Earlier in the week, the Category 4 hurricane caused mass devastation in Haiti, killing more than 800 people. Matthew traveled northwest from Haiti toward Florida and the southeast coast. Florida Governor Rick Scott urged residents to evacuate earlier in the week. Scott warned that once the hurricane hit, rescuers would not be able to save residents. The storm is expected to travel up the east coast through Sunday afternoon and then head east to the Atlantic. Matthew may even head back toward Haiti and the Bahamas later in the week. Luckily for us here in Washington, D.C., Matthew will not make it past North Carolina. We experienced some showers throughout the day on Saturday with a high of 68 degrees, and on Sunday we might even see some sunshine through those clouds with a high of 64 and a low of 47. For the work week, temperatures will remain in the mid-60s. We'll see a mix of some sun and clouds throughout the week, but thankfully no hurricanes. With your weekly weather forecast, I'm Jill Cameron. Back to Tony and Wes in the studio.
Thanks, Jill. The Obama administration says it is delaying the deportations of thousands of immigrants. The current delay will allow more than 56,000 immigrants who fled to the U.S. since 2014 to remain here for several more years. Federal officials say this decision from the Obama administration began months ago and is due to a cost-saving initiative. This change in policy comes after the administration's earlier plan to respond to the large increase in immigration in 2014. Previously, the administration had said such cases would be rushed through the legal process in attempts to deter other immigrants from entering the country illegally. Let's go to Chelsea Fosu and Emily Lytle with What's Up AU.
Thanks, Wes. I'm Chelsea Fosu.
And I'm Emily Lytle, and this is What's Up AU. Universities countrywide have debated the necessity of trigger warnings, which signal potentially sensitive material that could trigger or risk the mental health of students. In a video released on September 11th, AU Student Government President Devante Toriente launched the hashtag #LetUsLearn campaign, pushing for the increased use of trigger warnings on course syllabi. The AU student government will meet with the Faculty Senate soon to discuss their goals. In the 2015 faculty resolution, the staff stated that trigger warnings contradicted the university's openness to diverse ideas and free speech.
Now for some upcoming events everyone should look out for. The presidential debates are back in session. With election day approaching, these debates continue to bring out crowds at various on-campus watch parties. If you want to get a group together, the debate is tonight at 9 p.m.
On a more global scale, the new Peruvian ambassador will visit American University's School of International Service on Tuesday, October 11th. Ambassador Carlos Pareja will discuss the challenges of the new administration and his hopes for the future. The meeting will take place in the SIS Founders Room from 2:30 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. All students may attend, no RSVP needed.
On Wednesday, October 12th, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity is hosting a Speak Your Mind session open to all students to discuss relevant subjects that are experienced in our everyday lives. And on Thursday, join the QTPOC, also known as the Queer and Trans People of Color community, for their first hangout of the year. Meet and mingle with other queer people of color within a safe community. To end on an even brighter note, fall break is this upcoming Friday. Enjoy your day off and take advantage of the 3-day weekend. I know I will.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Chelsea, and this has been What's Up AU.
Thanks, Chelsea and Emily.
You know, Tony, this debate about trigger warnings is very interesting. There's been a lot of debate on either side, and it doesn't look like either side is willing to give in.
Yeah, no, it's going off of that. In any class that I've ever been in, every teacher has really had a different perspective on the concept of trigger warnings. So it's interesting to see how this concept of trigger warnings will play out at the American University.
I agree.
That's this week for ATV News. I'm Tony Peak.
And I'm Wes Young. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter.